Welcome to another live instalment of the Empire of the Cop podcast. With me here I've got Peter Kenny-Jones, the author of Crossing the Park. I'm Farrell Keeling, I played host today. I hope I did a reasonably okay, passable job. We of course had legendary Liverpool and Everton footballers, Kevin, Sheedy and Steve McMahon. Got that right this time. There was a bit of a wobble actually, you'll see that hopefully, but hopefully you'll just skip past it there and we can overlook that slight misdemeanour. But watch it here live for the full episode.
He's struggling, we all know that. There's 1 in 3 in food poverty at the moment, and I'm sure you've seen the statistics this week where we had 1 million kids getting food parcels, and it's unprecedented, and that was only from the Trussell Trust, and that's only one element of the food bank network. And my job is to eradicate food banks. That's what we're trying to do with fan supporting food banks. We're pushing for the right to food, and pushing down the door of both Conservative Prime Ministers and Labour wannabe Prime Ministers to include it in the manifesto, which will be, making sure that benefits actually pay, and that includes universal credit, pensions, universal free school meals for every child in this country. We've got to throw the kitchen sink at what we're seeing now. We can't rely on people dropping a tin of food off of the ground to see what we're seeing, because it's that bad at the moment. So, we've got to up our game. Politically, they've got to up the game. They've got to do something really systemic and change what's actually happening in the community, because as I said, 1 in 3 in this city suffering from some sort of food poverty. It's unacceptable in one of the richest countries in the world.
Thank you for coming down and supporting this event. It means the world. And I'd just like to move on to the man of the hour, of course, the man behind this event and Crossing the Park, Peter Kenny-Jones.
Hello everyone.
Come on, we can do it better than that. Oh, there we go. We get there then. Right, Pete. Liverpool 100, Crossing the Park now. You've gone from covering 1 player in fantastic detail to 34. What on earth possessed you to take on this charity?
Well, first, I just want to, sorry not to interrupt, but first, thank you everyone for coming. It does mean a lot. Thank you very much. It's very touched by everyone who's made the effort, so thank you. And give yourselves a round of applause. Back to me. So, yeah, obviously, Billy Little was a good one. Obviously, Rena Little is here, the sister of Billy Little. So, she was obviously crucial for what happened last time, and hopefully that seemed to go down quite well, and hopefully the next one does as well. Obviously it's been out a week. I'm not expecting everyone to have read one test yet, but it was. Hopefully maybe it's easier because there's 34 and you don't have to concentrate on one as much. But it's obviously the whole history of Liverpool, and hopefully everyone enjoys it. So thank you.
I mean, I'm just going to hit you with some of your own stats here. Don't worry, I won't quiz you. But 34 players, of course, crossed Stanley Park, making a combined total of 5,500 appearances for Liverpool and Everton cumulatively, scoring 1,235 goals, registering 59 clean sheets spanning over 140 years. A lot of stories there. What's the, out of all that, the maddest one that you feel that you've covered in Crossing the Park?
I didn't know that, so thanks for teaching me that. I always think Arthur Berry's one I go to. There's one that probably no one, unless you've read the book, has heard of him. He played for Liverpool and Everton on 2 separate occasions. He won a gold medal twice with Great Britain. Played for Wrexham on 5 separate occasions. And he was just a mad character when you look into it. He was part of the amateur football team, so he could move freely between clubs. He played for someone called the Northern Nomads, which was quite apt for what he did in his career. And I think stories like that are just as interesting, and no offence to the 2 men in the corner, but I think the people that you haven't heard of are maybe more exciting and more interesting, and that's obviously Billy Little's in the past, and some of these are even further in the past, and that's probably something that interests me more. And hopefully, as I say, you'll agree with you have the people out there. If the people you don't know are more interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, my personal favourite has to be Dave Hickson coming back on the pitch for Everton with a hanky to wipe away the blood on his face before scoring what would be the eventual winner against United. I believe if I've got my history right there, I'm sure I'll be corrected. Well, you've mentioned Billy Little already. You've covered his tale in some depth, and we've heard about one of the several mad stories within Crossing the Park. I think the one thing that shines through, certainly most clearly through Billy Little's story and crossing the park, is the sense of, as you mentioned, a general lack of appreciation of how good and important a part these players played in both Liverpool and Everton's history. Just how important was it for you just to get that message across?
Yeah, well, I think to do this is massive. It changes through time, and every story is different from the last one. But the way that each transfer is perceived and everything, I think is another reason why I did it. Because if you look at the last direct transfer was Abu Xavier, and I don't think if he came in, anyone would be throwing stones at him. But if Nick Barby did, I think half the room would be. So it depends how you do it and the way in which you go between clubs. So obviously that was something that I wanted to look into, and the more I did it, the more I realised that I think it's quite sad the way the rivalry's going, and Liverpool and Everton are growing further apart, and the end of the season could be bad for one of the sides, and I don't want to go into that now. But last time a team in Merseyside was relegated, Billy Little again tried to say and wrote a letter to the Echo and wished Everton the best of luck and said we'll get promoted and play with you next year. And I don't think I can say that Seamus Coleman will be doing that if that happens. So I think that's sad, and it's a sign of where it's going. And I'm not expecting that this book's going to change the whole city, but I think it's just sometimes it's good to look at how the rivalry's changed over the years and where it's going.
I mean, maybe not Seamus Coleman, but could we see Jordan Henderson penning a hearty letter to Everton Football Club?
Yeah, probably not.
We'll soon see, I'm sure. Not much left of the season. Obviously, by extension, you've taken a great interest again in wartime football. There seems to be an even greater injustice, in a sense, in terms of the contributions of players during that period either not being officially acknowledged or difficult to pin down. I mean, could you just tell us about your thoughts about this from a historian's perspective?
Yeah, I think it's something that's massively overlooked. I think most people who like football, you say, wartime football doesn't count, but when you're playing, the risk of getting a bomb thrown on your head, I think it probably should count more than it does at the weekend. So, yeah, I think it's something the more you look into, the more interesting it gets. I think it's 3 players who have played for both died in World War One, so that's an insight into how many people died in those battles. And yeah, it's just something. Again, I think most fans would just disregard wartime football. I think the more you look into it, you should respect it. And yes, they were playing local teams and people of not the same quality were in the same league, but it's not their fault that Hitler tried to take over Britain or whatever. They were just playing footy, and at the end of the day, their careers have been looked down upon because of it. And there's a lot of interesting stories, and as you see, I'm trying to split it before World War One, after World War One, after the war, and that. And, I think those people just get overlooked, but that's why I wanted to go back to the very first day of Liverpool, because I think every player deserves their story to be shared.
I mean, I'm going to go over everything we've just said, and obviously this book isn't just about the players. It closely examines, as you already mentioned, the relationship between both clubs from Holding to the modern day. You wrote specifically that the two clubs' history being built on a falling out. How do you feel about sort of the modern state of the relationship between the two clubs, and do you feel that it was almost inevitable that that relationship would decline to the extent that it has today?
Yeah, well, I think you can't say that the rivalry doesn't go back to what happened in the Heysel in 1985, and that's something I was very scared to write, and not something I want to cover now, because I think it deserves the time I tried to take with it in the book. But I think that's maybe the start of a worsening of the relationship, and as the teams really move further apart in terms of league positions, I think they have ideologies and how well they got on with each other. So yeah, it's as I said before, I think it is sad the way it's going, and I'm not expecting this to change everything, but I think when you look back, these two clubs have been going for over 130 years. It's only like the last 20-30 years we've actually hated each other, if you say that. So I think that's, we all think we're living in the moment and all that, but really we're the wrong type of trendsetters. The people are going there today. So I think it is sad when you look back upon it.
I'm going to hit you with an interesting scenario here. So you talk about the relative mediocrity in terms of the quality of football shown by both sides during a stage in the Billy Little years, as having potentially contributed to the amicable relationship between both clubs at the time. If both Liverpool and Everton had been the two dominant teams of the last 5 years, not Liverpool and Manchester City, would the relationship feel more positive?
No. Sorry, you threw me wrong there, thanks. Yeah, but I think no. there's an Arsenal fan in here, and I think you realise that when you play up against someone, you tend to hate them. But Liverpool and Everton were the two.
Shout out to the Arsenal fan in the room. There you go. There you are. Loud and proud. Yes, you are.
So obviously you're trying to beat the teams you're playing against, and you hate them all. But Liverpool and Everton were number 1 and 2. I think it probably never more friendly than there has been. Chatting on Merseyside at Wembley and stuff like that. So it can be, but the more you play against them, you want to beat them. But it should be that when you're both on the pitch, the main thing you want to do is get all 3 points. I'd say it's like when you play like your brother on FIFA, you want to batter them 5-0, but when someone else beats them 5-0, you feel a bit slight on them, so that's what I think it should be.
Lovely analogy. I suppose it goes some way to explaining why Abel Xavier was the last direct transfer between both clubs coming in 2002. Obviously, you've looked at more sort of recent examples, Conor Cody, if I'm right, being the most recent of the two. I mean, I suppose it's the question for another book really, but maybe we'll come to that shortly. Can you foresee further men crossing the park, or do you feel that this is the end of the line in terms of a transfer relationship between both clubs?
Yeah, well, I hope so, because then you release the book again with the next chapter. No, I think I can't see it happening. Obviously, the teams are very close in the league positions, and that should really relay into maybe it's easier for transfers to happen, but I can't really see it happening, and I can't tell you why, but it's just, I've said a couple of times, I'm not sure whether it's Bill Tenwright, I'm sure I know he's a person a lot of people in the room don't like, but he's the only person of a boyhood fan persuasion in either the hierarchy of either clubs, and maybe he's got a say, but I highly doubt that. I just think it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, and I can't explain why, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon, but as I say, yeah, hopefully the next one comes out.
I mean, it's a bit of a loaded question. Obviously Everton and Liverpool fans, not all of them don't get on, believe it or not. But I suppose, how would you go about bringing a situation where it is sort of fans again in the Kop all together, happy-go-lucky, everyone sort of rooting for each other, penning letters to each other if relegation happens and that kind of thing? Or do we, as a sort of modern fan, want that rivalry to stay in the current form as it is?
I think ticket prices probably, because a lot of people used to go to both teams, didn't they? Like if you couldn't go away, you'd go watch the other one because it cost a fiver. That doesn't happen anymore. You've got to get a mortgage out on your house and to basically try and get a season ticket. So it's impossible to do two at the same time. So yeah, I don't see it getting any better. Hopefully, if, as I say, if tickets are cheaper, if kids can start going to match more, and there's more effort for local fans to be given a chance to go to both, because, as I say, you can have a team, but if you can't travel to the end of the country and spend hundreds of pounds on a day out, then if you can get a fiver to go watch the other team, you can still like one and keep it going. My dad, his brother, they both support different teams. Me and my brother don't, and I don't think that if I was to have any kids, I don't think I'd let them support the opposite team, so I do. But that's what it is, though, and that's probably a bad reflection of me and our generation, but I think that's the way it's going.
And it's shaking their head there.
It doesn't even give me a word to say.
Half and half split?
It's not going to happen.
No.
No point fighting it.
Fair enough. Well, just lastly, I want to apologise if I'm stepping on anyone's toes here ahead of the Q&A, but could you just give us a little exclusive here and tell us what's coming next? Is there anything on the drawing board, anything on the pipeline? Where do you think you might go next?
It's a whiteboard actually, but there's a few ideas I've got on a few things. I'm scared to say them, but I'll say
I think we all want to know.
A famous former Liverpool goalkeeper.
I'll say
Former Liverpool goalkeeper. There's a chance of me doing a book with his kids. So hopefully it's in a similar era to Billy Little, and I don't want to say anything that he's a false thing. Nothing's been signed yet, we'll say. But hopefully that's the next one, and and we're all here every year to come and spend 20 quid to listen to me talk.
Well, I can say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the stage first, but of course we're going to move to one of the first players in your book and one of the most prominent names in that list, and of course is Everton legend Kevin Sheedy. Can I get a warm... Sorry, Steve, I beg your pardon, there's been a change of schedule. Sorry, Kevin. First up, of course, Liverpool legend Steve McMahon. Can I please get a warm... 277 games and 50 goals for Liverpool, winning the first division 3 times and the FA Cup twice. Highest number of cumulative appearances for both Liverpool and Everton. I just want to get your perspective first, because you're a boyhood blue. You know, you've got the highest number of cumulative appearances for both clubs. Could you just walk us through that first moment when you decided to sign for Liverpool Football Club?
Well, obviously, it was difficult because I could have joined Liverpool straight from Everton, and I didn't, because I didn't think it was the right move for me. My contract expired for Everton, and it was the first year of freedom of contract. And Hal Kendall was in charge, I mean, God bless him, and he needed to sell me. It wasn't common knowledge at the time, but it came out later. And I wanted to stay. As growing up as an Evertonian, being family are all Evertonians. I was captain, the youngest captain ever to play for Everton until that fantastic player Tom Davis took over. So, growing up as an Evertonian, I really didn't want to stay, but they weren't going to offer me a contract. I knew that, so I left. It was freedom of contract, so I left, and I went over to Anfield, and I spoke to Bob Paisley, and he wanted me to sign, obviously, and I declined politely, but I thought it was the best move for me to go away from Liverpool and become a man, if you like. You know, I was only a young guy, and I thought, nah, going from Everton to Liverpool, with respect, I could not do that. So I goes to Aston Villa. I'd already signed a pre-contract with Aston Villa, who, by the way, just won the European Cup in 1982. So I wasn't going to a shit team, you know what I mean? I was going to a decent team with Gordon Cowles and Gary Shaw, Colin Gibson's, you name it. You had Dennis Mortimer's, Nigel Spinks, and it was a good side. But I decided the best for me and my career was to move, which I did. And then the call come 18 months later. I couldn't refuse second time round, I've got to say. Do you want to hear the story about it?
Yes. I think we do, don't we? Yeah, we do. Come on, we want to hear it.
You can't not tell us now.
No, I'll leave it till later. No. Well, I get a call. I'm 18 months into my contract at Aston Villa, and I get a call at home, and it went something like this. It went, "Hey, you Harry, you Oi man." And that roughly translated to, would you like to sign for Liverpool? And it was this Scottish fella, who I can't name because he'll sue me. So I was disbelieved, going, basically, who's this? So he said, I can't tell you at this moment in time, but I want a yes or a no, would you like to sign for Liverpool? So I said, well, yes. I can't turn it down the second time round. So anyway, pushed the phone down. It was quite surreal, because I thought someone was winding me off. I thought it was one of them. So 4 days later, it's a news conference, and Kenny Dalglish is the new Liverpool player manager. I thought, that must have been him. I did honestly, said, that must have been him, he rang me up. Anyway, the phone goes again. And he said, that's why I couldn't tell you, because it wasn't common knowledge. It hadn't been announced. I'm now the Liverpool. Will you be my third signing for Liverpool? And I went, of course, no problem. Just, I said, only one problem. I said, I have 3.5 years left on my contract. And what do we do? He said, it's simple. You blame your wife. I'll never forget it. I said, in what way do I blame my wife? He said, just say she's homesick. I said, I live an hour and 5 minutes away. By car. Just say, she cries every time we come home. I said, yes, she does that. Whenever I come home, she cries. Doesn't matter. And he said, no. He said, seriously, you've got to, if you want to be a Liverpool footballer, you've got to say that she needs to get back to the Northwest. For family reasons, otherwise it's going to interrupt your footballing career. So you need to get back to the Northwest ASAP. Excuse me. So, okay, if I need to be a Liverpool footballer, I need to go in next day and give the spiel. Goes in, plucks up the courage. Doug Ellis, Deadly Doug, Chairman, the manager at the time, it was Graham Turner. Remember that great manager? Okay, now. I can't even remember his name. I just about got it out. Graham Turner, not Taylor. Graham Turner, and so goes to see them sitting down. So gives them the spiel. Listen, Mrs. not happy, cries her eyes out all the time. Need to get back to the Northwest, and I love this football club. As everyone says when you leave. So, okay, we empathise, we understand, leave it with us. I thought, fuck me, that was easy. So it goes out. Let's see what happens. So it goes out. Is this a long story or you're okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes out, goes on. Oh, brilliant. Next thing you know, a couple of days later, I'm training with the first team, obviously, and I sees this Rolls Royce coming down the driveway at Bodymore Heath. It's a training ground, and it's Deadly Doug Ellis, and he never comes to the training ground, ever. So he's coming down the driveway. I'm thinking, get in there, something's happening, you know, has to be. Roller goes down, gets to the bottom, all of a sudden, smack it in. Oh, get it. Goes in, sits down. Deadly Doug, the chairman owner, says, right, Macca, get your kit, get your boots, get all your belongings, get all your stuff, put them in the bag. You've got your medical at Old Trafford at 1 o'clock. I think, what? Obviously thought that the Liverpool thing was going to come out. He said, no, Big Ron Atkinson's waiting for you, your medical there, Man United, you wanted to go back to the Northwest, deal done. I said, well, not exactly, no. I said, I wanted to go a little bit further northwest than Manchester. So by that time, the cat was out the bag, and they threw me out the office. And I got in touch with this Scottish fella again, and I said, you need to sort it out. I said, if you don't do it within 24 hours or so, I'm going to have to sign for Manchester United. So within 48 hours or so, I was a Liverpool footballer. I'd signed on a dotted line, and it was a magical thing to do. It really was.
And that was the easy part. I'm going to hit you with the slightly harder part, which was, of course, your first Merseyside derby. Bit of an interesting experience, that one. You had something interesting happen to your car after, I believe. Could you just walk us through that game and the aftermath?
Yeah, I can. Obviously, I mean, how long have you got, to be fair? Because I'm telling stories, and I know Kevin's waiting there to tell a few stories as well. I just want to, before I go into that, you're talking about the history, and I know Peter's there, but you've got in your book about ex-Liverpool players, ex-Everton players, plays for both. You mentioned Conor Cody. When did he play for Liverpool?
Like 12, 13
Did he?
Anzi away, and then he played at home the last game of the season.
And he passes the first test. There we go, yes.
Okay, have you got Dave Watson in there?
I've only classed people who are the first team appearance for both.
Good, because me and Sheedy was talking about that. It only counts. Have you got in your book that I'm the only player for 100 years, captain both?
I've done my bit.
I just want to know, have you got in your book?
I've said that, yeah, because it was Andrew Hannah was first, and then you were after there, yeah. So we'll buy a copy.
In 100 years. Okay, have you got in your book, which I probably don't think you have, that the only player to play for Everton and Liverpool, captain both, and played with both player managers?
No, I haven't got that.
No, well you're shit then, aren't you? I played in the same team as player manager with Howard Kendall at Notts County. Played 6 games together, me and Howard, in the centre of midfield when he was player manager. And I played in the same team, obviously, with Kenny Dalglish. So you better edit that fucking book of yours and get it right. Okay? No problem. Where were we? Oh, the Everton thing, yeah. Yes, my 3rd game in to my Liverpool career was against Everton. I'm still living in the Prince of Wales in a hotel. So I'm 10 days into, and I've still got my case open, and I'm living out the suitcase, everything else. So the 3rd game in is Goodison. Fuck me. I'm thinking, okay. I always thought when I came back to play for Liverpool, my first name was Fuck Off. Even the youngsters, and you don't even know me, did call me Fuck Off McMahon. So anyway, 3rd game in. We used to drive, park the car up at Anfield, and then get the bus over to Goodison. So I said to Kenny, I said, can I take my car? I need to get a quick getaway. I've got a car parking space at the back of the ground. Because my sister-in-law works there, and she still does. She's the PA to the manager. So she's got me parking space. And Kenny says, hey, that's fine. No problem. Plays the game. We wins 3-2. I scored a winning goal. I'm looking at the Evertonians there. I'm trying to think
Where are the Evertonians in the room? Where
Anyway,
are they? Come on.
I end up.
There
We win
we
3
go. There we go.
Okay, we end up winning 3-2, and the 3rd goal was me, so I end up scoring a winning goal. So we goes out the ground, and I'm getting a quick getaway. Me and my father-in-law. We goes round to where it parked at the park end, and it goes round the corner, and I'm looking for my car. I'm thinking, I'm sure I'm delirious because we've just won, and I'm thinking I parked my car around the corner. And there's this big white van, I remember it as if it was yesterday. And round the back of the white van was what's left of my car. Right? It was like a Lego set. You know when the kids wake up Christmas morning with the fucking Lego set on the floor? That's what it was like. So I went, oh dear, what do we do? Went to pub. Me and my father-in-law went to the Queen's Drive, went to the pub, had a few beers, went back, slept, got up the next day. I had to then go out with my own family, who were all Evertonians. So I took them for lunch, had a few drinks, went home. Monday morning, gets up thinking, car. Gotta get this fucking car sorted. So I ring Steve Stride, the secretary at Aston Villa. So I said, Steve, sorry I haven't been in touch. I said, it's been hectic, 10 days. Been all over the place. We've had games, I've been out of a suitcase. I said, I apologise. I said, but you can come and pick your car up now. And he said, yeah, that's fine, Steve, yeah. Where is it? I said, outside of Goodison. And he said, okay. I said, there's only one thing, you probably need a big bin, right, and a couple of shovels. And I put the phone down. I've never heard from him since. So when whoever, maybe someone's in the room that smashed my car up, I don't know. But it wasn't my car he smashed up, it was Aston Villa's car he smashed up. So he got me a new car very quickly anyway, so.
Well, I mean, this seems like a very good time to bring you to Pete's questionnaire. You bear the title of being the second highest rated traitor of all 34 players. I should say behind Nick Barmby. So you're not the top one, if that makes you feel any better.
Nick Barmby, fucking me, I'd rather be first.
Close, but no cigar. Conversely, you're loved, of course, by the Red Half of Merseyside. So my question to you is, some players seem to have thrived being off that player the rivals aren't particular fans of. I just want to get from your perspective, did it bother you how Everton fans felt after your move, or did you just kind of think, oh, good riddance? What were your thoughts and feelings?
I loved it. It was, you know what, I mean, pressure's for ties, isn't it? And I loved it, every moment of playing football, whether it be for Everton or for Liverpool. I remember my debut, I respect Everton, even though they're going through a bad situation at the moment. But I respect football, I respect Everton, I respect all the teams I played for. But no, I had no fear, so it didn't bother me. Football, playing a game, was the best thing that I could ever do. So, no, it was a joy to play. It gave me more enthusiasm, more passion. The bigger the game, the better I was, the better I felt about myself. So, the answer is no.
Short and sweet, I love it. But for Everton, 369 games, 97 goals. You won the First Division twice. You were part of the team that won the FA Cup, but I believe you missed the final through injury. And you won the European Cup Winners' Cup. Second highest cumulative appearances for both Liverpool and Everton, and very well received by Everton fans. You're one of 34 players to have obviously crossed the park, one of 15 to have done so since the Second World War. What goes through your head when you hear those kind of numbers? Are you surprised?
I was actually the second one. I think Johnny Morrissey was the first one to, if that's right, Peter. But yeah, it's a lot went afterwards. But at the time, there was a lot of pressure on me, having been at Liverpool. I made my debut for Hereford United as a 16-year-old, and we won the Third Division Championship, and we promoted to the Second Division and played in the games there. And then at the end of that season, a mate of mine got 2 tickets for the European Cup final, Liverpool against Bruges. I went to the game not as a Liverpool supporter, but as a football supporter, a European Cup. I saw Kenny Dalglish score the winning goal, but more importantly, I saw the best midfield in Europe: Ray Kennedy, Graham Souness, Jimmy Case, Terry McDermott. I lived in a pub outside Hereford, at my parents' pub, and about 2 weeks later I got a phone call from the chairman of Hereford, Peter Hill, to say that they'd accepted a £100,000 bid from Liverpool and to come up to sign. In those days, no mobile phones, you didn't have agents, you didn't have advisors. I went up with my mum and dad. We had to stop at Marks and Spencer's for her to get a new dress. And then we got to Anfield, but all the way up, I'm thinking, sat in the back of the car, I don't want to sign for Liverpool because I've just witnessed the best midfield in Europe, and they were in their prime as well. Not that I didn't have belief in my ability, but I just knew how difficult it would be to break through. So get to Anfield, have a tour of Anfield, have a picture of Bob Paisley with the European Cup, and all the time I don't want to sign. So my chairman came to me and said, Kev, we need you to sign £100,000. That was back in 1978. It's a lot of money now, a lot of money then for a football club. He said, if you don't sign, Hereford might fold. So he put a bit of a gun to my head. So reluctantly, I signed a 4-year contract. And I should have known signed 4 years, 5 games, 2 goals. I signed the contract. Bob Paisley stood up, shook my hand, and said, "Congratulations and good luck, Philip."
Bloody hell.
Sort of, it was. I went into Liverpool as a good player. When you're training with world-class players every day, Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, Alan Hansen, all the players of that era, you can only come out of it a better player. So, luckily for me, in those days, we played in the Central League, and it was a competitive. The gap between the reserves in those days and the first team wasn't that big. It's massive now. We won the Central League 4 years on the trot. Played with some good players, and so looking back, as I say, it wasn't great. Didn't work out for me. It toughened me up mentally, because when you know no matter what you do isn't going to be good enough, you're not going to get into the team. So I went through a bit of a bad time there, but when I come out of it, I was in digs in Elsie Road, number 5 Elsie Road by Anfield. Mrs. Edwards was the lady there, and I was in digs there. And towards the end of my time at Liverpool, I used to go and watch Everton midweek games, and I saw Graham Sharp making his debut, Kevin Ratcliffe playing, Adrian Heath signed for 750,000. So I was in a position that I knew what was going on at both clubs.
Obviously, the journey didn't end there. So before you moved to Everton, I believe you got a call from Colin Wood about the prospect of playing for Everton Football Club, which then led to a call from Howard Kendall. Then not too long after, you were asked to sign for the club. And I just want you to, similarly to Steve, I suppose, walk us through, what you were feeling at the time. Do you think did you feel that it was hard to walk away from Liverpool, or did you sort of go, this is the right opportunity?
It was the right time to move away. Liverpool had to offer me a new contract, so that when it went to a tribunal, they could get they got 100,000 for me, so they got their money back. But I've still got the contract they offered me, and it's hilarious, the figures in it. When you look at what the modern player gets now, which I don't, good luck to them, but it can, on contrast, it's a good piece of information. But no,
I suppose, was it hard to walk away from Liverpool?
Yeah, no, it wasn't, because I'd done my time there. I hadn't made the breakthrough. I was in digs with Alan Hansen when I first moved in, and then Ronnie Whelan, he was in another digs, and I was good mates with Ronnie. And when Alan moved out, he said, "Could you have a word with Mrs. Edwards to see if," because he knew they were good digs. Anyway, so I probably talked myself out of a career at Liverpool by getting Ronnie into our digs, and she looked after us. But no, I was still great mates with Ronnie. But so I was injured. Ray Kennedy never got injured. That was the player in my position. And I played for Ireland against England at Anfield, and I'd done my ankle. And at the same time, Ray Kennedy got injured, and Ronnie got his chance, and he took it with both hands, and he's been a fabulous player for Liverpool. But it's sometimes one door closes. And on Friday, last game of the season, I was playing for Liverpool reserves against Preston, and I was in digs. As I say, no mobiles in those days. It was just a house phone. The phone went, and it was a reporter for the Daily Mail, Colin Wood, and he said, "Would you like to sign for Everton?" Well, as I just said, I knew the background of what Howard Kendall was trying to do at Everton, so he said, "Put the phone down and Howard Kendall will ring you up." They used to call it tapping up in those days, so put the phone down. Sure enough, the phone went, Howard Kendall. He said, "I'm coming to watch you in your game against Preston. Show me what you've got, more or less." Anyway, I must have done okay. About 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Harry Cook, who was the chief scout at Everton, to say, "Would you like to come and sign for Everton?" So it was an easy move for me. So it was just, I knew pre-season, I knew I had to have a good pre-season, because Liverpool supporters, Everton supporters, mostly Everton supporters think, well, if he's not good enough for Liverpool, why would he be good enough for us? So it was tough at the time, yeah.
I soon came to love you, of course. One Everton supporter interviewed for Pete's book said that you had the best left foot in life. I'm going to move on. So you obviously scored the most goals from free kicks in the English top flight during the 1980s. Crowds used to fall silent whenever you used to step up to the plate and Everton were ordered a free kick. Could you just walk us through, from your perspective, what that experience was like? You know, quieting crowd, even sort of an Anfield crowd. You know, even at times when both Everton and Liverpool supporters used to sit in the Kop, everyone you could hear a pin drop. So Pete wrote in his book. Could you just feel a sense of dread when you used to step towards the ball? Were you sort of aware what the crowd and the stadium as a whole were feeling?
Well, I practiced mostly every day my free kicks, because when you've got 45,000 people chanting your name when you get a free kick about 25 yards out, you better be able to deliver. So I was confident in my ability. You're never going to score every time, but you know, you hit the post, it just goes wide, but you know, you score. And people ask me what's my favourite free kick, and it was at Anfield. It was a derby game. It was the Kop end. It was 25 yards out. The best strike I've ever hit. As soon as it left my foot, I knew it was right in the top corner. Tommy Lawrence, Ray Clements, Bruce Gobbler, they could have all been in goal, but no one was saving that one. And for some reason, and in those days, as we said before, the Kop end, it was full of Liverpool and Everton supporters. But I've run to the Kop end and gone, fuck off. Adrian Heath has come behind me and gone, fuck off. So we get beat 3-1. Steve, I think, scored another of his goals against us. We got beat 3-1 on the day, but we went on to win the league that season. On the Monday morning, that night, I'm at home watching the news, and it shows my free kick, and it shows clear as day, like 2 fingers. And the news person said, oh, Kevin Sheedy could be in trouble now. So Monday morning, going to Belfield, and Adrian Heath was in before me, and he said, you had a letter off the FA? So I went to my pigeonhole, sure enough, letter from the FA. Mr. Sheedy, could you come down to FA headquarters to explain your actions? So a week before that, Mark Falco, was a striker for Spurs, had done exactly the same, 2-finger salute, and got fined £1,500. So we go down to FA headquarters on the train with Jim Green, with the secretary, Adrian Heath and myself. We'd already written our cheques out for £1,500 because it was as clear as daylight. So we get down there, go into a small room, and there's a TV in there, and a gentleman, and I'd like to say it was a VHS, with a DVD, but it was a VHS in those days. Anyway, he pressed the play button, scored the goal, see it clear as daylight, and he said, Mr. Sheedy, could you explain your actions? I said, well, I've just scored at the Kop end. And he hit the pause button. He said, how do you know it's the Kop end? And I've looked at Adrian Heath, he's looked at me thinking, he hasn't got a clue here. So in those days, there was a quiz program on TV, Ted Rogers, 3, 2, 1, just him in. So I managed to turn that into that and got away with it.
There was another particularly famous free kick scored against Ipswich, I believe. Do you want to walk us through that one?
Yeah, it was a quarter-final of the FA Cup. Again, got a free kick outside the box, and I used to try and get on it quickly to gain an advantage. And Paul Cooper, who was the goalkeeper, was sort of lining his wall up, and I just took the free kick quickly and bent it in his top right-hand corner, expecting the referee to disallow it, which he did. So I put the ball back down, and Peter Reid, who I think has scored 1 goal in his career, he said, what are we going to do now? I said, just get out the effing way and I'll put it in the corner. So Paul Cooper knew I could put it there, so he's edged too far that side and left a big hole on his left-hand side. So I got the ball up and over in the goal. And most Evertonians of that era, that's the goal they remember me for.
It's one hell of a free kick moment. It's going to be awkward if I get this wrong, but I believe there was a brief period of time where both you and Steve were playing, of course, for Everton. I suppose we'll get to this later when you're both back on the stage together. But is it a shame from your perspective that the pair of you didn't get an opportunity to see whether you could have had that great partnership at Goodison Park? How did you react initially to the news of him leaving? Firstly for Aston Villa.
Yeah, I didn't know that Everton had to sell Steve, because Steve was an Evertonian, as he said, a real combative midfield player, really team player, and a great player for us. So it was a shame that He did leave because obviously we got on to, but he's had a fantastic career at Liverpool. So yeah, so it would have been nice if he could have stayed and been Everton captain. You know.
No words to say. Oh, come on, go on. Let's sort this out. Let's get you staying here.
It's difficult because in those days you're only young people and the manager makes a decision and you know you've got to go with what they say. So if Everton did have to sign him, sell him, then it's a shame for Everton.
So I just want to draw on Pete's book. Of course, it's the reason why we're all here. And obviously, you played in an era where the relationship between both sets of clubs, both sets of fans, was perhaps more amicable. What are your thoughts on how that relationship has developed over the years? Obviously, Pete was discussing. It's a shame that it's got to this point where. It isn't the case where both sets of fans are in the Kop or at Goodison Park, and part of that is of course due to rising ticket prices, unfortunately. But do you see it sort of as a shame as well, or is it nice to see that it's more of a, I suppose, a fierce rivalry, a less amicable rivalry?
I think it's just a shame the way it is. When we were playing cup finals or whatever, you see the cars going down to Wembley, blue scarf out of one window, red scarf out of the other window, and that's how it should be. The people in Liverpool are brilliant people. I've lived here since I was 18. I'd never move anywhere else. I just love the place, and it's just a shame that this has happened, sort of thing. But that's life.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to get your perspective while I've got you on Everton's season so far and Sean Dyche. Things are a little bit testing at the moment, it's fair to say. What's your perspective on it all, watching on as a former player and a fan?
It's sad to see. I mean, Everton with all his history, we've been knocking on the door too many seasons now, down at the wrong end of the table. And if you keep doing that, the trapdoor's going to open. So it'll take a miracle, I think, now for us to stay up with the games that we got. But until it's mathematically impossible, then the players will have to give it their best shot. But I don't think it's looking great after last night's performance.
Just to bring it back to Liverpool, sorry, Evertonians. Obviously, you only had 5 appearances for Liverpool. Obviously, it was the best decision for your career to go ahead to Goodison Park, forge a great relationship with the supporters of Goodison. Is there ever a point you've kind of wondered, what if I'd stayed, what if I'd sort of prolonged my career there? Do you feel, especially certainly looking at the player that you became at Everton with the time, to develop, do you feel that, had you stayed, you could have perhaps sort of weaned your way into that first team at Liverpool?
There's one moment that I think defined my Liverpool career. I made my debut against Birmingham at Anfield, and I hit a shot from 25 yards to Kop end, and it hit the post and the bar and went wide. And I always wondered if that went in, it may be a different sort of thing. But hey, how that's it. So yeah, like I said before, one door closes, you've got to open another door and you move on. So I've got nothing but respect for Liverpool. They made me a better player. I went out and had a great time at Everton, and since I've been on the left Liverpool, I've not had a bad word said by any Liverpool supporters, which I think is brilliant.
Kevin Sheedy, everyone. Is it for Everton, and do you feel the money should have been better spent elsewhere?
No.
So bear with us.
Cheers, Steve.
You've got to switch it on.
That's your best assist. Right, look at that.
So
Might help, wouldn't it? Switch, say on, off.
So the new stadium, fantastic, but I've always said we need a good team to go to the new stadium. It's happened over the years. Sunderland were the first one. They built the stadium alike, but they didn't have a team to do with it, and they got consecutive relegations. It took West Ham a long time to get used to their new stadium. Southampton was the same, a new stadium, but didn't have a team to go with it. They struggled for a while. So yeah, it's a fantastic stadium. It's going to be brilliant, but you need a good team to play in it. It's like it's not a home venue at the moment. When we move into it, it'll be for the opposition. It'll be like a cup final for them, sort of thing. So, but I think we've got more issues to address before then than the stadium.
Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. Well, Steve, this one's for you. Have you still got your restaurant in Southport? And what would you recommend for the menu? That question comes from Jill. Thank you very much, Jill.
Where's Jill?
Oh, there
Hi,
she is.
Jill. Yes, we do. We still have it. In fact, we have the Bee Gees on tonight. Brilliant. But yeah, we do, and mussels are always the best thing on our menu, without a shadow of a doubt.
Good answer. You can't go wrong with that, really. Steve, it's you again. This comes from David and Chris Coughlin. What are your thoughts on Trent Alexander's new inverted fullback role?
Well, he was shit as a right back, wasn't he? He was crap as a right back. He's always, I'm getting no, he wasn't. Of course he was. His defending is poor. If you're a right back, you're a defender. You know? Pardon? Well, he's been fucking playing right back for 3 years. So Klopp's got it wrong then. He's not a right back. So why has he been playing right back? Okay, so Jürgen is to blame, right, for playing Trent right back. He doesn't know what he is. Trent doesn't know what he is, right back or midfield. And Liverpool have got to identify what job he is and where's his assets and where's his wrongdoings. He cannot defend for toffee. Cannot defend. So as a defender, first thing you do is defend. If you can't defend, then you shouldn't be a defender. So he's got to decide exactly, is he a midfield player or a defender? He's now playing inverted, so Klopp has now decided to do what Pep Guardiola does. Fullbacks inverted, go into midfield. And he looks decent enough. He really does look okay, but he does nothing. He's 100 mile an hour going forward and 5 mile an hour going backwards. So he's not the greatest defender in the world, as we've all seen over the past 12 months at least. So he's developing into maybe a new role, a new system, I don't know.
I mean, do Liverpool fans here agree with that? Was Trent a bit of a crap fullback, or are we? Oh yeah, yes, no. Okay.
No, he's a shite fullback.
Oh. Well, this one is to both of you. The most difficult opponent. This comes from Ian Byrne, by the way. Thanks, Ian. Most difficult opponent you both ever faced. Kev, do you want to go first?
Difficult, sort of like club-wise and international. I played for Ireland, the quarter-final of the World Cup, and I come up against the defender, the right-back, Bagomi. He sort of man-marked me. He was the toughest opponent I came up against. Didn't give me a kick, really. Some people ask, what's the difference between training and playing? When I was at Liverpool, we were having a five-a-side, and I nutmegged Graham Souness, just put the ball through his legs, ran around the other side, and he sort of looked at me and smiled. About 3 years later, we're playing in the first ever Merseyside Cup final, the Mill Cup final. I did exactly the same. I nutmegged him. As I was going around the other side, he broke my nose. So that was the difference between training and playing.
How about you, Steve?
What was the question?
The most difficult opponent that you've ever faced?
Oh, well, I mean, I played in an era where we had amazing midfield players, you know, in terms of Souness, Jimmy Case, Brian Robson, Peter Reid, just to name a few. And they were all as difficult as you can ever come up against. But I would say probably pound for pound, Souness was tough as all boots. But Brian Robson could do everything at the time. He could get forward, score goals, defend, tackle. He was what I call a proper midfield player. So I'd have to say my toughest opponent was probably Brian Robson.
Good answer. So this one comes from Barry to Steve. After the derby, Is there any time you wanted to kill Peter Reid when you were having a pint in the evening?
Never. Reedy is a top bloke. He's a top bloke, and Reedy signed me when I left Liverpool to Man City for £1 million on Christmas Eve. So no, like Sheeds and everybody that knows Reedy knows that he's a top bloke. He really is, and we shook hands. We went to war together. We had a pint together. Different class. He's a top bloke.
Top stuff. I'm going to go over to you again if you don't mind. This one comes from Gary. Who was the best player you played with in your career? And, well, we've had played against, so we'll go with the best player that you've played with in your entire career.
Is this for me?
It is indeed for you. We'll go to Kev as well to ask him about this. I'm very curious.
Well, someone asked me over there, and I was fortunate. I played with Ian Rush, Kenny Dalglish, but the best one for me was John Barnes for 2 years. John Barnes was sensational. He really was. In '88, when he first came, everyone was a bit sceptical. But for 2 years, he was the best in European football, without a shadow of a doubt. So I'd have to say John Barnes.
Top answer. I think we can all agree there. Yeah. Kev, how about yourself? The best player you've ever played with?
It depends on positions, but probably going to the top would be Neville Southall. He was the best goalkeeper in the world at the time. He made me a better finisher myself. In training, we had 3 keepers, Nev, Jerry Payton, Jason Curtin. No disrespect to the other 2, but if you sort of hit the target and it was a decent strike, it would be a goal. With Nev, if you put it in the top corner, he'd get a fingertip, he'd tip it onto the post, tip it onto the bar or push it wide. And the lads that weren't very good at finishing, he wouldn't even bother saving it with his hands, he'd just use his chest or his leg just to disrespect them. And we signed Mark Ward from Man City for £1 million, and one of his first days training, we were doing a finishing exercise, and the goalkeepers go in for 6 shots, so that by the time they've made 5 saves or they get to the 6th one, they're absolutely knackered, and then the next keeper will go in. So Kevin Ratcliffe, who's a bit of a joker, said to Wardy, if you get the chance, chip Nev, which like think it over him, he'll respect you. So as it worked out, Nev has made 5 world-class saves, tipping him around the post. Anyway, and it came to Wardy, he was on next. Anyway, Nev's like just getting up, ball comes to Wardy, he chips Nev. So Wardy doesn't really know Nev, and Nev's looking at him, and then starts to walk towards him. And Nev's got his gloves off and he's thrown him down. And Wardy doesn't know what to do, but he turns and starts jogging. And Nev, for a keeper, was quick. Goalkeepers usually crap runners, but Nev was quite quick. Anyway, Nev's gone after him, pulled him down, punched him in the ribs and cracked his ribs. He was out for 2 months. Nobody ever chipped Nev after that.
Sheeds is right. I played with Nev when I first started, and he was unbelievable. Trained like a Trojan, and he was top goalkeeper. The best goalkeeper I've played under, and that's Shilton was shite, and Grobler was good, but Neville was the best, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's quite an endorsement from Steve there. Can we just get a poll from the room? Barnes, Southall, Barnes? Yeah? Oh, come on. Southall. Way more enthusiastic. Where are the Liverpool fans in the room? Come on. All right. Steve, we've got a question here for you from Max. Which trophy you won during your career meant the most to you?
This one's easy for me. Really easy. It's the '89 FA Cup final. The Hillsborough disaster. For many reasons. Obviously I played for Everton and Liverpool, and I captained both. And being from the city meant so much to me. And I played for them 6 minutes at Hillsborough, and it was soul destroying. What eventually turned out to be tragedy beyond belief. And who'd have thought that people went to a game to watch football in '97, as it is now, never returned. We were part of that from start to finish, and it's a bittersweet moment for me. I don't want to be too dour about it, but we cannot talk about Liverpool's history without talking about Hillsborough. It's impossible, because it is there. It happened, that's the way it is. So we plays the game, we go to Wembley, we do what we had to do. And so apt that it was against Everton. And obviously I play for both, Merseyside, Scousers, and whoever won that final, for me, it was for the supporters. It wasn't, and families. And I just think it was inevitable that we had to win that cup final. So it was a real bittersweet moment for me. Being a Scouser, Everton, Liverpool, winning the FA Cup final, for the Hillsborough, 89. That for me is special, and it'll always be there for me forever and a day.
Very good answer. Very good answer. I'm going to put the same to you as well, if you don't mind. Obviously, Steve there mentioned the FA Cup, and you were part of that team that won it. You missed the final for injury, as we've discussed. Would it be Europe or the league for you? And do you feel that if you'd made the final, you'd been fit for it, you'd won it with the team, you'd lifted the trophy, would that have beaten everything for you?
Just going back to what Steve was saying about the final in '89, we were travelling down to London on the Friday, and we stopped at Anfield. We were on the pitch, we saw the floral tributes for the whole Kop onto the pitch and whatever, and we were beat from that moment, because deep down you go out there and you do your best, but the result was for Liverpool to win. Not that we didn't try, we tried our best. It was 3-2, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
3-2.
So we had a right good go, but it was the right result. Sometimes, well, it is. Football's just a game. When you're talking about people dying going to a football game, it's anyway. So my favourite winning game, when you win the league, first time we won the league in '85. The best team always wins the league. The cups, you get your run, your luck along the way, but to actually win the league, the best team always wins the league. So to pick up, when you're a young lad and you're starting off on your career, you don't know where it's going to get you. So to win the league, that was my favourite medal of all.
What about you, Peter? What's your favourite?
No, my Seed City. There we are, we won the league. Yeah, I beat you there. I got a bigger cheer.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I was 6-aside, it was dramatic. Last game of the season. I actually scored the winning goal as well. I don't want to go on about it, but it's
Okay. Good lad.
You're on a good tally of goals now, aren't you, Pete? Go on then. That's the best achievement here, to be honest, isn't it? Right. Pete, what's your tally now? You've got
lost count.
You've lost count. Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take us back to Steve. I'm afraid I don't know the name of this one. It's a good question, nonetheless. Who did you prefer partnering, beg your pardon, in midfield? Molby or Whelan?
Both, I suppose. In this day and age, you can play three in midfield. At the time, we played two, but Sheedy knows Ronnie well, and Ronnie Whelan was the silent assassin. He really was. He was ruthless, let me tell you. They thought that, I mean, I was out there in everyone's face, but Ronnie was so cute with it. It was ridiculous. He would kick his own grandma. Certainly, he would. Honestly, he would. He'd step on them and as if he didn't mean it. and he would. He was ruthless. Jan was just a player, just a ball player, and beyond belief. Fat bastard, didn't move, and I used to do all his work. So I'd have to say Ronnie Whelan.
Does every Liverpool fan here agree with that? Whelan? Mulby?
Before you go, I mean, when are we leaving here?
Whenever you want. You can stay here for as long as you like.
No. Keep going.
Keep going. Well, I've got one for you, actually, for both of you. This comes from Carl. It's the greatest goal you've ever scored. Yourself. Do you want to go first, Kev?
Ireland's first goal at the World Cup.
Fuck off.
I wasn't going to mention it now. It's the best goal I've ever scored because everywhere I go in the world, I get so many free pints of Guinness. It saved me a fortune.
Do you remember that when I give the ball away to him and he scored a goal for Ireland? That's why he's saying it.
No, not at all. It's because of the pints of Guinness. I've just come back from Ireland and I've had quite a few.
Well, I might get a few as well. Because if I gifted you the goal, then I might get a few pints of Guinness as well.
We can sort out some kind of joint deal here or something. I don't know.
I assisted the ball run away from me and Kevin gets onto it. Anybody else but Sheedy, and he puts it in the bottom corner, and it's like...
I mean, I don't know if there's any representatives from Guinness here, but clearly this man needs a deal here. Can we sort this out, please? Pete, I have a question for you. This comes from Adam Gilbert. Thank you very much, Adam. If you could write any book you wanted, regardless of how niche it is, or what the publisher would say, and what would you write about?
Autobiography. No, I don't want to give away the game of which whatever. There's Gordon Hodgson, which I think many people don't know. Salah's chasing down his records now, and I think obviously I've done Billy Liddell and he's one above him, and I think everyone knows Ian Rush, everyone knows Roger Hunt, but Gordon Hodgson's Liverpool's third highest goal scorer, and I reckon if you walk down the city, most people wouldn't even know his name. So he's one who interests me, but I feel like when no one knows your name, it's a bit of a difficult book to sell. So probably if I could do that.
If you get the facts right, you'll be okay.
But if not, it'll be on you, Gilbo. That's the question.
Steve, you'll volunteer as a fact checker for Pete for his third book.
It'll be the fourth book, won't it? I don't know.
Well,
yeah, it'll be you the one after that. Yeah.
Okay, mate. As long as you invite me along, no problem.
Kevin, right after that, I'm sure. This is a question for both of you now, from Liam Holden. Despite the dominance of Everton and Liverpool during the 1980s, which other side during that period impressed you both the most? Kev, do you want to tackle this one first?
Nobody really. To be fair, it was us or Liverpool. 84 we won the FA Cup. 85 the double, we got beaten in the cup final to do a treble. 86 these bastards beat us. Then the double beat us in the league. We finished runners up in the league, runners up in the FA Cup. 87 we won the league. 89 FA Cup, Liverpool. So it was just those were the only ones. Liverpool were the only ones. Tottenham came close, but as they always are, sudden softies. They don't travel well. One of the best games I've ever seen when I was at Liverpool, and Liverpool beat Tottenham 7-0, and I was in the Keeling Road, and I saw one of the best goals I've ever seen. Terry McDermott was on the post, corner for Tottenham. Liverpool broke. I forget who crossed the ball. Steve Highwood crossed the ball, and Terry Mack got a header from 7 or 8 yards. Terry was the biggest drinker I've ever come across, but the fittest man at the same time. He'd be out. I always remember he had a green Ford Capri, and we'd been out in Formby one night. Anyway, driving into work the next day, there's a roundabout on the Southport bypass, And as I come to the roundabout, I could see this Ford Capri in the middle of the roundabout. It was Terry's car, but he'd been training and he'd be the fittest one on the pitch. He was unbelievable, but yeah.
Don't suppose we've got an Arsenal fan in the room. Do we have any Tottenham fans present? No Tottenham fans. Hey. Steve, can I ask the same question of you?
Well, yeah, I mean, mid-80s especially, obviously it was Liverpool Everton dominance, and then until late 80s, obviously Arsenal, 89, which it was probably one step too far for us because that was the Hillsborough disaster, wasn't it? And we'd already won the FA Cup. We'd beaten Everton, and with the delay in the fixture list because of the Hillsborough, we had to play 3 games within about 5 days. We played the FA Cup final, which is unusual because usually the FA Cup final is the last game of the season. So we played the FA Cup final, played West Ham on a Tuesday, and we beat West Ham 5-0, I think, on the Tuesday. So our goal difference went up, and then we played Arsenal on the Friday. So all these players complain about games, too many in the shop, but bullshit. If you're successful, the more games the better, the more successful you're going to be. If you want to play 38 games a season, then fine, then you're not going to win a thing. If you want to play 56 or 58, then you're in contention to win FA Cups, leagues, you name it. So we'd come to that end of in 89, and we had to play Arsenal. And I know there's Arsenal fans there, and I know they all go to 1 minute because we could get beat 1-0 and still win the double again. We should have won the double 4 years out of 5. We won it in 86. 88 is Wimbledon, which I blame John Aldridge because he missed the fucking penalty. 89 was, I blame John Barnes because he should have kept the ball on the corner flag.
Absolutely.
87 was it, with Palace in the semi-finals, and he beat us 4-3. We beat Palace 9-0 2 months before that in the league. 9-0 we beat them, and they beat us 4-3 in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. So, I mean, difficult. It really is, and I don't know. It's probably. What was the question again?
Do you feel that, apart from Liverpool and Everton, you know, what team during that era impressed you the most? I think we've all kind of got our answer.
Well, I think Liverpool.
Good answer. I'm just going to wrap this up with the final question. This one comes from Tommy Jones. Thank you very much. Steve, you were on the pitch as a Blue when Liverpool won 5-0 at Goodison and Ian Rush scored. Can you describe your feelings that day?
Yes, gutted. Just saying to the guys over there, it was quite surreal. I'm a young player playing for Everton, Goodison playing against Liverpool. Hal Kennel's in charge. He brings Glenn Keeling from Blackburn, signs Glenn Keeling on loan from Blackburn, and he gives Glenn Keeling his debut at Goodison against Liverpool. So, plays the game, 0-0, 20 odd minutes or so, I don't know, 26, whatever it is. Glenn Keeling gets sent off. He drags Kenny Dalglish back. Kenny's through on goal, Glenn Keeling pulls Kenny Dalglish back, red card, off. We're down to 10 men, I'm centre midfield, I have to go to right back. Brian Burrows go from right back to centre half. And then Rush scored 1, Rush scored 2, Rush scored 3, and Rush scored 4. Yeah. And remember, I played for fucking Everton at the time, right? And the sad thing is, if Glenn Keeling would have stayed on, it'd have been 8-0. He was shite. He was shite. He never played for Everton again. He went straight back to Blackburn, and that was the end of him.
Kevin's grimacing here. It's bringing in pleasant memories, for sure.
Very, very unpleasant memories. And I remember Kevin Radcliffe after the game said, just before the kick-off, the start of the game, he looked at Glenn Keeling and he said he was like a ghost. He was that white. Too big a game. But yeah, he never played for us again.
A lesson learned there, I think. I believe that will wrap it up for the Q&A. Can I please get a warm round of applause for Kevin Sheedy? Steve McMahon. And the man behind it all, Peter Kenny Jones.